What's up guys? So before I start the video, I just want to quickly explain what I'm doing here. This isn't going to be necessarily a tier list of the whole cast. I'm just going to do the top tiers because I really want people to know the difference when they're fighting against certain characters, so they know that they're at a slight disadvantage. Not a huge disadvantage, but a slight disadvantage knowing that their opponent is using a stronger character. Because a lot of the times people think that they're kind of fighting maybe at the same equal playing field, but some characters it just makes it so much easier for them to win. The tools that they have and the support and everything that they carry that the other player may not have, and it just makes winning a lot easier. And I don't want people to feel discouraged when they're losing against somebody who's using a much stronger character, and have them feel like they're not getting stronger or whatever the case may be. So I really just want to educate guys and girls about this situation. So without further ado, let's get started. So we've all seen a tier list here before, right? You got your S for your OP tier, your A for your top tier, your B for your mid tier, C, and so on and so forth. So I think for S4, Storm 4, I think we need to look in a little deeper into the A top tier, because anything below right now is not irrelevant, but just a little off topic. And the characters that are on the top tier it just makes things a lot easier to win with. So I really want to get into depth with that, and we're gonna start talking about the A plus tier, because I think there's a pretty significant gap between characters that are an A tier and an A plus tier. But first I want to talk about the A tier list characters, and then in the next video I'll talk about the A plus. So I divided them into 3 groups because I think even in the A tier list there is a pretty significant gap between some of the characters in that tier list. So even though these are all A tier list characters, there's still a little bit of gaps in between that I want to discuss. So we're going a little bit even more in depth because there is a difference between each category, and I will explain now. So first I want to start with the well-rounded characters that are in this category, being Tobirama. So Tobirama is as everybody knows, is a really balanced character. He's got some pretty good damage output. He has jutsu cancels for days. He could use his water wall in any point in his combo, and it does a lot of damage, and it's really fast, and it works really well as a shield if need be. He's got a great tilt that he can convert off of. He doesn't really have too many cancels per se, but he's just really well balanced anyways. And his awakening is really good. His awakening actions really help jail and lock down his opponent. So he's really well rounded. There's nothing bad you could really say about Tobirama. So Mitsuki, I think he's really good as well. I mean, there's not too much bad you can say about him. He's got a really great tilt. He's got a really great jutsu. He's got a ultimate jutsu cancel that he could do, and his awakening's pretty good as well. His awakening actions definitely help his diversity in a match. So yeah, there's not too much bad you can say about him. He's just really good. Not amazing, that's why he's not in A plus or OP, but he's really well rounded. Sakon. So Sakon, he's got really good a keep away game if you wanted to play with his tilt. His tilt's really amazing. I think probably one of the best in the game, to be honest, because it's really quick, and it's really hard to lock him down if somebody keeps spamming his tilt, because there's not much you could really do besides try and stop him from doing the tilt, which is kind of hard to do because he could keep doing it at any point. And his guard pressure is really good too. When he's attacking your guard, his up combo does a lot of damage, almost takes you to red on your guard. So he does really well. His jutsu is also the wall, which is really good for, you know, playing defense and keeping the opponent out if you're down on sub. So he's really, really good. Not much bad you could say about Sakon. And now Sarada. Sarada, as many people know, her second hit is, you can't counter it. It's uncounterable. And it leaves you stunned enough where if you're at a distance, you could throw it and it'll stun them long enough for her to dash at you and continue a combo. So that's really good. Her tilt is also really good. It kind of sets up a barrier where, you know, obviously if you fall in it, it's like a trap. But yeah, it's really good defensive tool. Her jutsu is also, it's average, you know, averagely a good jutsu, but it's more effectively good for defense. So, you know, the opponent can't just dash through because it acts as a like kind of another wall. So she's really good on defense and offense. She could really do damage really quick. Her combos are pretty quick and pretty good damage. Not much bad you could say about her. Minato. So the alive Minato, you know, he's really fast, obviously, you know, but his first hit is one of the fastest in the game. So if you're ever close range, I wouldn't try and, you know, fight Minato close range. If you guys are both, you know, face to face, he will definitely get the first hit 90% of the time. And he's got really good conversions. You know, his third and fourth hit, you know, the neutral combo, they leave your opponent stunned enough where he could do an ultimate cancel, he could do a regular jutsu cancel. He just has a lot of conversions he could do, and yeah, his Rasengan is really good. Not many characters have a jutsu like that where they could Rasengan and cancel to keep themselves safe. I think he's just a really good character, and you know, obviously he could keep his distance from his opponent because he's a really fast character. You know, his side steps are really, really fast. His shurikens are all right. You know, they have okay tracking, pretty good. I think the only thing keeping him from being like a more of an A+ character is his awakening, because it's really not that great, not very useful, pretty easy to avoid. But other than that, he's a really good character. Great guard pressure as well. Now Kakuzu. Kakuzu is one of my favorite characters to use, but I think he's just one of those characters that you can't really find too much wrong with him. He's got a great jutsu with tracking, like he's a really great support. His air combo does strike back, and I love to do that. His air combo causes strike back and lets you continue to do even more combos, so that's really useful. His awakening, I don't want to say it's OP or amazing because his first hit is relatively slow, so you could actually counter it if you are close enough. And it is, the only thing good about it is kind of hard to get away from his fire and you know, his combos, his normal combos in awakening. It's kind of hard to avoid it, especially if you're cornered or something, and it does pretty good damage. So Kakuzu is he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Alright, Asuma. Asuma is another one of those, you know, well-rounded characters. You can't really say anything too bad about him. The only thing I'd say is his combos are a little bit drawn out. You know, it's one of those characters that his combos take up way too much time. You know, the opponent could get some subs back pretty quick or whatnot, but other than that, I think he's great everywhere else. His jutsu is pretty good, I'd say, you know, because an opponent, if they're in that smoke, they can't really avoid it. If they get hit by it, then they get hit, or if they try and sub it, they'll get hit anyway. So it's pretty good in that regard, but it is not that great in tracking. You know, it'll just whiff if he's looking even slightly the wrong way. But his awakening, it reminds me of Danzo's, and that's saying a lot because his awakening, it does a lot of damage for one, and two, it's like it has great range, you know, so you could hit your opponent from far and then, you know, lock onto him after a dash. And he does have a ultimate jutsu cancel that you have to do with the dash, but still it's really useful to have something like that. So he's just a really great character all around. Now CTS Sasuke and EMS Sasuke, I kind of put them together because they're pretty much the same type, like they kind of do the same things. They both are, you know, pretty good at you know, getting the first hit on. They both can do the Chidori, which is a really useful jutsu that locks down your opponent. They both have a ultimate jutsu cancel with their down combo. Like I said, they both pretty much do the same thing. They're both really well-rounded characters. Probably say EMS Sasuke is a little bit better just because his awakening is probably most likely stronger than CTS Sasuke. Debatable, but it's pretty good. It's a Susanoo and its damage is really good range, and yeah, it's really strong. Lee, everybody knows, his air combo is really good for juggles and conversions into more damage, and it's just really good. His combos also, like Asuma's, are a little bit more drawn out, but it still benefits him, like I said, because he gets juggles after them anyways. He does have an ultimate jutsu cancel. His jutsu is pretty good for defensive reasons, especially if you need to like keep away from your opponent. His tilt is pretty quick. It doesn't really stun your opponent, but it does at least take him out of the predicament where he might be in, for guard pressure purposes. Like he could try and tilt his way out of there because his tilt is pretty quick. And other than that, his awakening is pretty. I honestly want to say it's really good. His awakening is pretty good because if he needs to run away, he can. There's no way the opponent's gonna catch like 5 gates, I think it is. He's at awakening Lee. He's really fast and his damage is pretty good. That jutsu he has is pretty good. He's a really strong character. Now Kazekage, I say Kazekage and Gaara are pretty much the same thing like Sasuke, the two Sasukes, because they both kind of do the same thing. Their combos are a little bit similar. Obviously, the 2 hits being their sand, almost like impenetrable type attacks. Really good for playing defense. If they're baiting their opponent to dash at them, they could just do their 2 hits, and it's almost like impenetrable for them to get in. They just get hit. That's really useful. Only difference is Gaara is actually a guard type, or a guard support type, so that's really useful. There are obviously a few things that do separate them, being like your jutsus. Gaara actually has access to the sand shower, which is a pretty good jutsu to have, for tracking and conversions and all that. But the 4th Kazekage also has a pretty good jutsu, depending on how you want to use it. I think they're about the same level of strength depending on how you create your 3-man team. I think they could both, depending on how you put them together, be a very big help however you put your team together. So I think they're about the same equal level. Just Gaara is a guard type. Let's see, Mei, honestly, I want to say at first I thought she was really good because of her water bullet tracking and her really active frames on her attacks, when she's attacking you with her buttons, and it's really hard to dash her because of her active frames. They'll just catch you. So at first I thought she was really amazing, but when I use her, she didn't really work out that well because they are kind of slow, her first few hits, but still, I think she's a really great character. Other than that, her lava is pretty good jutsu for if you want to OTG somebody that's on the ground. Her awakening's averagely good. She does have an ultimate jutsu cancel, and she's just really good. She's also a guard type, which is useful. And trust me guys, these attack type, guard type, they really come into play during the game. You might not see it, you might not notice it, but trust me, they come into play. So those are really important, and that's really what makes a character even better to have on your team. Now Darui, his jutsu is obviously really good tracking, really good for adding pressure onto your opponent. His awakening is just pretty much him a little bit more buffed. His awakening actions they're alright. They kind of help him out though, when it comes to trying to lock down on your opponent and track them and just start some pressure. So he's really good with that. Honestly, there's nothing too bad you could say about Darui. His tilt is really good. It's a little bit slow on startup, but it could catch your opponent off guard. And once you're in that block string, there's no tilting your way out of it because it's just too fast. And his damage is really good. You guys should take notice of Darui's damage. He does a lot more damage than most characters, air combo and regular combo. So yeah, he's really strong, well-rounded character. Nothing bad you could really say about him. Killer Bee, his first hits are really fast. So if you like are face to face with Killer B, chances you might lose to his first hits because they're pretty quick, unless you're like Minato or something. But yeah, he does reach pretty far as well. His first few hits, which is really important. And his jutsu is really good. It tracks down your opponent even if they sub it. You'll most likely sub right into it, and he could cancel out of it, which is really key, because not only could you track him down, but after you cancel it into like a dash or a combo, like to get him into a maybe even a block string, that's really key, because you could continue the pressure, and that's really key, and that's important to make your opponent sub or break their guard, whatever the case is. I think the only thing holding B back would be his awakening. Honestly, his awakening probably drops him down to like a B tier, because he is just too big and he just gets hit by everything. He can't even hit the opponent because they're so small, he's so big, and it's really hard to fight like that. But other than that, B is a really strong character. Orochimaru. He is one of those characters that are just, he's just well-rounded. There's nothing bad you could say about him. He's got great guard pressure with his, up combo doing a lot of damage on your guard. His jutsu is really good for playing defense or even offense to lock down on the opponent. His awakening doesn't really help him too much, besides, he has dash priority and whatnot, but either way, he's just a really solid character. Like, there's nothing bad about him, I want to say. I mean, his tilt it's alright, not really that great, but tilts aren't always what makes a character. His hits are fast, and they do quick damage, and that's really important in this game. That's why I say, Lee and Asuma, their hits are really drawn out, so that poses a problem when you want to kill them really quickly before their sub comes back, or before that support like Pain comes back, stuff like that. That's when it comes into play. So Orochimaru is good for that, and he's just really good, well-rounded character. Now Madara alive with the fan, I think he's also a really averagely strong character. His range is really good, his first hit on the ground, it's pretty quick as well. His tilt is pretty good, causes a strike back, which is really important if you do have a strike back character on your team. He does have an ultimate jutsu cancel, and his awakening is pretty good as well. It's not great, but it's it's good. It's a Susanoo, one of the big awakenings, and yeah, he's just averagely good. Not too much bad things you could say about him. Yeah, that's pretty much it. PTS Gaara is best known for being that one character on the team that just hits you from far away, and you keep using him to spam his sand shower jutsu, which is pretty much his main use on a team, is hit the opponent from far or switch from the jutsu. And not to mention, he has a really good tool set. If you pick him as your first character and you get his tools, he has the two defense down tags, an attack up pill, and the paper bombs, which is really good tool set. Like, you really can't ask for too much better than that. He's also a guard type, and yeah, he's just a really amazing character, and his jail is pretty good too. He doesn't have a jail where you could jump cancel on their guard and then start hitting him again, as if he was a Raikage. He has enough space in between his combos on his guard where you could hit him and then dash, stop, and then start hitting him again, which is a pretty good cancel. Alright, so now for the good but not great category. Now, like I said, these characters that are in the good but not great category, they're still A-list characters. But compared to the well-rounded characters, they fall a little bit short. So if you are using the good but not great characters against the well-rounded characters, you're kind of at a disadvantage. So keep that in mind when you're playing against somebody else, with the opposite, using, the well-rounded characters. Keep that in mind. So first we have Shisui, who is averagely good. His first hit is pretty good. It's pretty quick. His tilt is a little bit slow, but if it does land, it's really useful, and it does beat support switching, which is really useful. His jutsu is really what makes him a tier list character in the first place. Is jutsu is, it's three hits. He can't necessarily cancel it, but he could choose to do all 3 hits or not. And his awakening is averagely good. I don't want to say it's good, even though it's a Susanoo, I know. When he's not in awakening, his first hit is pretty fast, and it has pretty good range on it. So I think that's pretty much why he feels pretty threatening close up. So yeah, that's one thing. I think the only thing keeping him back is his long drawn out combos, and they don't really do that much damage either, which is a big deal because, like I said, Darui does a lot of damage and he does it pretty quick. Shisui doesn't do a lot of damage and his combos are pretty drawn out as well. So there's a big difference in Obito, the Jinchuriki version. Everybody knows about his range. You could counter obviously his first hit, but not his second or third hit, I believe. So his main role in any team, any good team, I'd say, using him to his most effectiveness is kind of to bait the opponent into dashing into his combos, so they get hit because his second and third hit are like pretty good at active frames and they stun your opponent on the ground, and it just makes it such a bother. He's pretty much a wall of a character if used correctly. He's really a wall, and nothing you could do about it wall as well, because if you're in range you kind of just get hit or you're in block stun. The only thing holding him back, I'd say, is for one, his awakening is not that great. It's okay, but not that great. 2 is if you're getting hit by his if you're on guard, you're blocking his combos, you could just jump out of his combos. He's one of those characters where his block string isn't really tight enough to where it locks you down on the ground, so you could actually jump right out of it. So that's pretty annoying as a Obito Jinchuriki player, is if you're trying to pressure their guard but they just jump out of it. His jutsu is okay. I only say okay because it's a really slow startup, so the opponent can see it coming, but as soon as it's out, that thing is quick. So it's good. It's average. So Obito is good but not great. Mifune. Mifune, not really much you could say about him. Like, I think the only thing keeping him in the A tier list is his tilt being really fast, obviously, getting him out of pretty much any situation. I think the fastest tilt probably in the game, honestly. And his speed, his first hit speed, and that's pretty much it. Everything else about him is pretty average. His jutsu's average. It's not really the most useful thing. His awakening, is obviously him just a little bit more buffed mode. His awakening actions is a little bit, helpful, where it is unblockable. But yeah, other than that, he's a pretty average character. That's why he's good, not great. Not much he could do after he starts hitting you besides keep dashing, because he doesn't really have too many combo cancels or any at all. He's really not the greatest of characters in the A tier, that is, but he is averagely good. Raikage. Some people even thought for a second that Raikage was like the next Kakashi come season 2 of Storm 4, and I never for one second thought that was the case, because Raikage, only thing going for him was, for one, his jail, when he does his up combo into air combo to on their block as a block string to jail them so they can't move until their guard is broken. That was the only thing he had going for him, and his damage. Other than that, he's an average character. His jutsu is really slow. His tilt is really slow. His awakening's horrible. He doesn't really have too much going for him other than that. So if you avoid, that type of stuff from the Raikage, you're sitting fairly well. But his jail is also, you need to time it properly, or else the opponent could just counter it or switch out of it or something. So it's kind of, I don't want to say hard to use the Raikage, but it just makes it a lot more difficult. So he's an averagely good character. Also, not to mention, he is a strike back, so that's also what's keeping him at the A tier. So, you know, when I put that into perspective of the Raikage, you guys could see like how he is an averagely strong character, right? So that's the whole point of the video, is to show you guys, you know, not expose these characters, but just to show you, give you guys, you know, a Storm 4 awakening. Not, you know, the game awakening, but like, you know, just to open your guys' eyes to see these characters in the light. So Road to Boruto, Sasuke, and Naruto. So these characters, to be honest, they could be, it depends, because I feel like they could be either well-rounded or they could be good but not great. They could be in either category. And the reason is, I think without these jutsus that they have access to, for Naruto it would be the Rasengan Barrage, and then for Sasuke it'd be the Inferno Fireball. I feel like if they don't have those jutsus, they kind of are like, you know, decent characters. You know, they both have infinites and they're just good characters. So I think that's how you categorize it. They both are definitely strong enough to be in the A tier list though, because, you know, they got some pretty good combo cancels, being with infinites and ultimate jutsu cancels, and their awakenings are pretty good. And yeah, they're just really strong characters, good guard pressure. Like, they are pretty handy characters. Konohamaru, I think he's pretty good at doing the, you know, the whole guard pressure. He does obviously a lot of hits on your guard. His Rasengan is pretty good and cancelable, so you could, you know, do that and cancel into, you know, something else if you're in trouble or something. His awakening is actually pretty good, if you guys didn't know. He has that shuriken awakening action that Sarutobi has, so it's pretty potent. He is a pretty potent character, and I think the only thing keeping him back is, for one, his tilt's not that great, and he is a strike back also, not to mention, guys. He is a strike back, so that's also very useful to know. I think it's just because he's slow, honestly. I think his first hit is just really slow, so he can't really, you know, beat other characters that have a faster first hit. And other than that, I don't think he's there's not much to say about Konohamaru, but he's good, just not great. Masked Man. So first thing I want to say about him is that if somebody were to like specialize in Masked Man, I feel like he could definitely be a well-rounded character, or they can make him look like a well-rounded character. But if you're like, you know, just using him, you know, in a regular player match, and you know, have all right knowledge with him, I feel like that's when he becomes, you know, just a good but not great character, because everybody kind of knows what his strengths are and what he excels in, but I feel like there's a lot of holes when it comes to Masked Man. So for one, he is a strike back, which is a really, really good thing. He's got a really good tilt that he can convert off of, you know, after a switch and, you know, start attacking. He's got a pseudo infinite where, you know, his down combo, he could do it until the last hit counter. You guys know how that goes. And his moveset's pretty good as well, or his item set, I'm sorry, which is, you know, the tags, which tags are really useful in this game. You know, if you need to catch your opponent off guard with something. And his awakening is pretty good too. You know, I mean, it's, you know, just him, except now he's got his awakening actions, which are Kamui, which is a really good defensive tool. He could really set the pace for the match whenever he wants, because of that Kamui. You know, he could, you know, avoid everything. So yeah, he's got a good awakening. I just feel where he falls really is just his speed. I feel like he's a really slow, drawn out, lanky character. Like, you know, his combos are like really drawn out, and his air combo is like really slow. Like, I feel like that's really what's messing up. Like, if he was a little bit faster, I feel like he'd be really good, but I feel like he's just really slow. So he reminds me of Shikamaru in a way that, you know, Shikamaru is pretty slow, but he does, you know, have an infinite combo. He has the air combo to rely on. Also, his awakening is pretty good, and that's all like kind of the same Masked Man type stuff, except he's really slow. Except Masked Man is a strike back, and his conversions are a little bit better than Shikamaru's. PTS Shino. PTS Shino, how do I put this? He's a strong character, you know, with his shuriken and his bugs, you know, his shuriken, which are the bugs instead, they have pretty good tracking. And not to mention his item list, which is like 3 paper bombs and a defense down tag and a poison tag. Like, he's got nothing but tags, and that's really useful in many ways. I'm not going to get too in depth in that, but they're just really useful in battle, and they can come in clutch at the best times. So yeah, there's not too much to say about Shino. He's really average everywhere except his items and his bugs. He doesn't really have anything too special about him other than that. His first hit is pretty quick, and he actually does have pretty decent guard pressure. You know, his combos actually last pretty long when he's attacking a person's guard, so that's pretty useful when, you know, trying to pressure your opponent. And let's see, his awakening's alright. His tilt is okay in some situations. It could be good, it could be not so great. But other than that, he's pretty decent, good character. I feel like he could do well on pretty much most teams. Alright, Hanzo. Honestly, the only thing keeping Hanzo out of the well-rounded is his first hit. His first hit is so short. It's really a travesty, honestly. His first hit, it doesn't reach very, very far at all. You have to be really, really close to the opponent for him to get his first hit off. But other than that, I think he's great everywhere else. I mean, his attack, I mean, he's not an attack type. His support type is, I don't know what it is, but it's not very useful. And his jutsu is not that great either. His tilt is good. He's got an infinite, you know, in his combo. He's got a great awakening with his 2 awakening actions being that poison fog. And yeah, he's just a great character. Like, outside of, you know, his stubby arms, he could be doing really well, but yeah, like I said, they really cut him down in that way. But other than that, you know, he's good, but not okay. Moving on. Kimimaro. Kimimaro is one of the most average characters in this game. He's just so averagely well. He's just averagely good, guys. There's nothing too special about him, and at the same time, he's a strong character. Just because he's one of those characters that can do quick damage, just like Orochimaru, but his jutsu it's useful once it's, you know, active, but the problem is it's slow, and he could get hit really, like, it's a very slow startup as well. Like, he could get hit and he'll just be out. You know, it'll just cancel out the jutsu, which is a big problem, and it happens more often than not. So his awakening is pretty good, as you guys may have seen in my last video. His awakening actually does have a pseudo infinite, I'd say, because it does take precision to make it work. But yeah, I think he's an averagely good character. Next, Hashirama. Hashirama, the alive version, not the reanimated version. I think he is he's averagely strong. His damage output is really, really good. He's a guard type. Hashirama, he's averagely good, guys. He's good, not great. He can pseudo jail you, you know, kind of like the Raikage, but that one takes a little bit more timing and is kind of hard to pull off. So Hashirama is decently good. Now for the potential category. So I'm sure you guys are thinking, what is this potential category? So these characters are not necessarily weaker or stronger than the well-rounded and good but not great categories. This just means that they have the potential, obviously, to be stronger or weaker. So, and that, what I mean by that is it depends on the teams that you match them up with. And there are some characters where some players are like character specialists that, you know, really main using like Shino or puppets or Gaara, or, you know, just any of the characters that'll really just make any team look, you know, if they put them on any team, it'll make it look good. But the point is for anybody to just pick up a character and make them look strong. They want a good core team around it, or some sort of intellectual meaning behind each character that they chose to support, you know, a specific character. Because a lot of teams, a lot of good teams rather, are really based around like one character, and then two other characters are like kind of their support. A perfect example would be puppet characters, because obviously everybody knows if you pick a puppet, you're usually going to be facing the puppet the whole time, usually. And the other two characters are going to be, you know, the support that are going to, you know, help them play defensively, or whatever, you know, how the puppet player, you know, chose his team. It's usually defensively, right? So the same thing goes for like if you're not using a puppet team. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys want me to explain more in depth for each character or for a specific character, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to explain. But other than that, yeah, I just wanted to you know, educate you guys and really take notice. So even though these are all A tier list characters, the well-rounded characters will always have the advantage over the good but not great, and the potentials if they're not, you know, with the right team. So keep that in mind, guys, and I'll see you in the part 2, which is where I will be talking about the A+ tier characters, and those are the ones that will really change the game and change your guys' vision on the game, because this is what's going to make you guys stronger as players. Because in the storm, you know, in the storm sense, where you guys will really see what makes these characters strong and how to really play around it. So on that note, I will see you guys in the next video, part 2. Peace out.